This today is without a doubt my most outdated product review ever, and yet the products aren't even outdated at all, because I'm talking about the Sennheiser HD600 and HD650. And since this is a very special review for me, a comparison, I want to take the time, and I don't have a structure. I want to just talk about what comes in my head, and maybe it could become a little bit of a rambling, but I have to say one thing. This was my most enjoyable, pleasant review period ever, because I had to listen to music as much as I needed to get the feel for these two. And one thing I have to just make sure. These are audiophile grade headphones, and it doesn't really come down to which one is better. It really comes down to which one fits you better, because I've seen so many people saying the 600s are better, the 650s are better, and I was kind of in between, because one day, or the first actual 2 days, I preferred the 650s. I said that's the one. Then I took a little bit more time with the 600, said no, these are the ones, and I switched back and forth for like 4 or 5 days until I actually finally made my decision which one I want to compromise on, or what I exactly want, which kind of signature do I prefer, and I will get into that and a lot more, and I will take my whole time for that, because I just have to say this once again, I've enjoyed these two so much, because it kind of brought me back to my passion of listening to music, which I just, due to the YouTube channel, don't have the time anymore. But before I'm going to talk about the sound, let's quickly cover one thing, and that is the product overview. Okay, here are the two ones. As you can see, they look very, very similar, and there are just some minor differences. For example, here we have 2 padded parts, where we have on the 600 4 padded parts. This is pretty much already it, because you don't really notice a difference here. And also the ear cups itself, as you can see, they look very similar. There is a little bit of a difference of how soft they are and of the curve, because the 650 feel like they have a little bit of a thicker border here. But what I like a lot about these are that they are big. My ear fits easily in, and it's deep enough so my ears doesn't touch, even though this is actually still padded as well. So this is really great, and the shape is great. I really love that. What I've seen a lot of people complain about is this lacquer here, because it at some point starts to chip off, and I definitely see this happening. So considering the price range of about $250 to $300, this could have been made a little bit more premium. The rest though is solid, and it appears high quality, but maybe a little bit something more elegant would have been nice. I don't have a problem with that yet, of course, since I haven't used them for that long, but this is just something that I wanted to point out. Of course, you can see this, and it's really nice to adjust this, because this is very stiff, and I actually had to extend it way much more than I usually have to do. So this is pretty much already it. One thing that I want to definitely point out is, as you can see, the 650s have a way thicker cable than the 600s do. And I've read a lot about that these kind of break quite quick on the 600s, and people had to replace them. A little bit unfortunate, because it's not a cheap cable. I think like $40, but it is what it is. What I like though on the 600, it's that we have the red marker here that for the right side, because on the 600 you actually have to check every time once you have them in your hand. The other thing would be the cable. Both are 3 meters, and of course the one on the 650 is a little bit thicker once again, and it comes with the 1/4 inch, and it comes with this adapter. As you can see here, just plug it in. No, not the most elegant solution, but I guess most audiophiles will use it this way anyways. What I found to be a little bit weird at first was the cable though on the 600, because I thought, I don't see this adapter on the 600s, and honestly, it took me 3 days to notice one thing. This is the adapter. It comes with a 3.5 millimeter cable, because it is so seamless. Okay, I should have noticed, because here it's a matte plastic instead of the glossy one, but I did not actually. So they did definitely a good job in case of that. And this is already pretty much all I want to go in, because now I want to get into the comfort. And it pretty much doesn't matter which one I put on, because one time I put one on and sometimes the other, and one is more comfortable than the other. So I would say it's so close, it's absolutely negligible which one I will use. So let's put them on. One thing that I definitely like, how subtle they look. Yes, of course, the ear cups are quite big, but that's great because they fit so well. But they look subtle. They don't appear too big here or too wide in any sort of space, and this definitely looks okay. Now, what about in terms of comfort? I have to say, and I don't want to sound too loose or too hard, but I would say it's just good. Because at no point at all I completely forgot I had them out there. There are headset or headphones on the market that you kind of completely forget on your head because of the amazing design of how well they are placed, but you definitely feel them. And one thing or a common complaint that I've heard about these is the clamping force being too hard. I totally get that because using them for the first days, I definitely noticed the longer I've used them that there is quite some clamping force, and especially if you have the ear cups a little bit further or depending on your shape of your head and your jaw, it can become a little bit fatiguing. That's why I kind of placed them a little bit further back, not to press on my jaw, because it is noticeable. And I did hour-long listening sessions of 4 hours plus, and I had to say it is still okay. Absolutely, I can get used to them, and the longer I will have them, or you can use the book trick where you have some more books and put them on to get it loose. It is totally fine. So I did get used to it. But like I said, you will never kind of really completely forget them on your head. This is just something that I wanted to point out. But the one thing that is absolutely great here is the fit. Because the ear cups or the ear cushions here are actually quite stiff and not really that comfortable because they don't really mold to your head. They just stick on it. And due to the clamping force and the really stiff headband, it is absolutely secure. I can lean all the way back, chill in my chair, do whatever I want to. Those stay exactly the way they do. And what I kind of like is you have a little bit of wiggle room of how you actually have them on your head, because usually I like mine a little bit further back, which it still allows me to. But if I put them on a little bit further in the middle, which it kind of tends to, they are still absolutely secure and they fit nice. So like I said, comfort maybe just good, but the fit is absolutely great. This is pretty much all I gotta say, especially since the sound is the important part here that I want to get into now. And I will switch back and forth from the 600 and 650, but I will talk about first because, like I said, there is no better or worse one, and it really comes down to what you want. I could kinda narrow it down to one thing. The 650s are V-shaped. They're definitely more of an audiophile grade fun headphone, where the 600s are, I wouldn't say flat because they don't sound boring at all, but definitely more neutral, more analytical. And to make it real quick, if you prefer, I would say a little bit more bass and therefore recessed highs for more instrumentals, more like bassy stuff with not that many vocals, the 650 could be better. The 600s, and that was actually quite fitting what I read on Amazon. Someone said the 650s and 700s can't do metal. I wouldn't go that far, but I have to say the 600s, they manage one thing. And what you shouldn't do is use the 650 first for a while and then switch to the 600, which I did, because every time I did that, the 600 felt a little bit too flat in terms of bass. That felt too weak. But if you use those exclusively, or at least half an hour after you've used the 650, you won't notice any lack of bass. Because some people say they are a little bit too weak in terms of bass. I would say no, because one thing that they both have in common is the great bass, because it is a super tight, I wouldn't say even punchy bass, but it's more like a slap in the face, because it's super narrow, precise, and boom, there is no reverb or anything. What I've noticed on the 650, which is amazing, because in certain parts, I'm not quite sure if that's actually intentional or if the music has that in it, because I've never heard it on any other headphone, but there are some certain, like for example drums, and you have the boom. You have like a kind of on the 650s, which is absolutely amazing because it adds a kind of additional layer to the music, especially to the lower segment, to the bass, that felt amazing, which the 600 lack. But the 600s have the great tight bass, and they have a definitely strong enough, but still not boosted bass. And I would definitely say these are kind of flat, but flat to me always sounds like boring. So I would say neutral, because nothing feels out of place. They feel perfectly balanced. The bass is there, and it is enough there, and it's a high quality bass. The highs are pretty much exactly to the point where they give you all the details. You don't think like you would miss out on anything, but they don't get too harsh. So long listening sessions are absolutely great. They are really well made for long music sessions, and I really enjoyed it because I had the clarity, I had the high open feel due to being open back, which is amazing. Of course, due to being open back, this is something that they have both in common. You have no noise isolation, and the sound leakage is quite big. Of course, that comes with the territory of being an open head headphone, but it is the clarity and the highs. But the highlight here for me are the mids, because especially what I missed a little bit on the 650 is the following. On the 600s, the singer is like a little bit of let's at least half a step, or if not one step in front of the band. So it's kind of like a little bit out. And you hear the music, the instruments as some kind of complementary sound, because you can focus on the vocals, which especially for me, who listens to a lot of rock, metal, melodic death and so on, is very important. Because what was great on the 650 first turned out to be a little bit something that I've missed. Because since we have the great bass and we have definitely great highs, it just felt like the vocals, the singer is kind of in between the band or even half a step further back. And that's why I couldn't quite hear the separation of the instruments. Everything was in one line, which is something that I actually don't think is all that great, especially if you listen something to a lot of with vocals, because I want them to stand out. And the 650, don't get me wrong, sound great. And that's why I had such a hard time deciding on which one I like more. So it really comes down to what you want. The more vocals you listen to and the more they are important to you, I think the 600 are the better fit. Because for me, it's very important that I can kind of focus completely on the vocals, but still not miss out on all the details in the instruments, because this is all there. On the 650s, like I said, this is more of a fun headphone, audio grade, of course, because you don't miss out on any details. You get it all. But I just don't like that they sounded a little bit like there would be a curtain in front of the vocals. They sounded a little bit too recessed in terms of mids, which then, in my opinion, was actually kind of boring. It's a fun headphone. And like I said, for dubstep and more instrumental stuff, it's great, because then you don't notice the lack of the vocals. It is great and I love it. And for some specific genres, it definitely is even the better fit. So, of course, the perfect scenario would be having both, or maybe exactly something in between. And I'm not sure if Sennheiser offers that, because I haven't tried the 700 or 800 yet, but I would want the bass of the 650s with the amazing mids and the slightly more open, lightweight soundstage of the 600s. But in the end, I had to decide, what do I like more? And since I listen to and I like vocals more, at the end, I had to kind of just go backwards to the 600s. Nominally, they may be lower end model, but I prefer the highs and the clarity in the vocals so much more. And it isn't missing out on the bass, because I've listened to all my other headphones. In comparison, of course, every time I switch back to one of those sound a little bit kind of flat. But if I use them exclusively for a day or two or more, they sound exactly right, because everything is balanced out so great. And that's why the 600s are my personal choice. I definitely like the 650s, but just in a side-by-side comparison, every time I use the 600s and got completely sucked into the vocals, especially if you have some great female vocals, it is so great. And the 650s just kind of made me focus more on the instruments, and I could enjoy the music. But here I could enjoy the songs. So this is kind of where it breaks down to me. And in case you are wondering, can I drive these without an amp? I would say not really, because I've tried them on my sound card at first, and the sound was definitely more boring, a little bit flat. I couldn't get the volume that I wanted to, so I had to order a shit Magni 2 headphone amp that I use now with my USB interface, the Focusrite 6i6, and that combination definitely works out. I can drive them loud enough, and also what I tried on my AV receiver in my home theater, which could drive them absolutely fine as well. Then I got just a little bit more of a oomph, a little bit more clarity, a little bit more separation and everything. Nothing felt so kind of dampened out, because usually it smoothens out, but with a proper amp that you will need, in my opinion, you can only have the full potential of these, because otherwise everything sounded kind of a little bit muddy. So you need that, just in case we are wondering. And something like the Chic Magni gets it absolutely, because I can drive it easily high enough. I use it with high gain instead of low gain. I was able to drive it loud enough with low gain, but high gain for me just seemed a little bit better. And like I said it in the beginning, I've never enjoyed a review period more, because this is the first time that when I listened long enough to the 600s or also 650s, to special songs that I've known from the past, and so I could kind of fall back into a trance-like state, and I've had such a pleasure in listening to music like I hadn't years ago anymore. And since I make so many YouTube videos, I just don't get the time to enjoy that in the way that I want to. So to kind of narrow it down after like 15 minutes, I enjoyed both. Both are a great buy. And if I wouldn't have used maybe the 650s or the 600s, I maybe wouldn't have even noticed the kind of reset mids. Maybe on some other headphones, maybe in the future. But if from what I've read on the comments before, having to choose one and stick with that, I think I would have bought the 650s. Maybe not regretted it, but I think on the long term, and especially since I had the really unfortunate situation being able to test them both, and I did so many A/B comparisons, I'm really confident that the 600 will on the long term be the better fit for me. And I've read about so many people saying that this is the last headphone you will ever need. And I kind of agree, because these are at about $250. The other ones are at about the 650 I found $310. Actually, today I saw them on eBay for $250 as well. So not even the price makes a difference. But both are well worth the money. And I think if you want to get even a higher audiophile grade headphone, you have to get something with a lot of diminishing returns, because then you will have to pay a lot more to maybe get just a little bit more, because I wouldn't really know what to really improve on both in either way, what they are meant for, because I'm pretty sure the 650 sound the way they should sound, what they wanted them to sound, because they wanted them to sound definitely more bass heavy and a little bit more fun listening, a little bit more forgiving in some weaker scenarios. Because here, if you have some music that is a little bit lower quality, you notice that since the clarity stands out a little bit more, and then you notice it. But I still have to say actually one thing that surprised me, because I expected them to make terrible sounding music to really sound terrible. But I have to say, and since I listen to a lot of metal, which is quite old, and then the quality definitely wasn't there, it is actually a little bit forgiving, and definitely forgiving enough for that kind of quality that I had. So they did never feel that I could not enjoy music, because the sound quality was always there. And like I said, just about the noise isolation, if I put them on or don't have them on, I hear my voice pretty much the same way. So not a problem for me in my studio, because it's usually very quiet here and I can't disturb anyone else. But just keep that in mind. But I just have to say I'm super happy. And one thing that I maybe just have to point out, just so no one will ever say anything afterwards, I got them both from Sennheiser directly, and I said to them that I want to, if that's possible, keep the 600 as my kind of reference for the future, for future headphones, if I could keep them. And they said yes. So just so you know, I got those to kind of keep for free. I guess the same would have been the case if I would have wanted the 650. So price was not the concern here. And a big thanks to Sennheiser for allowing me this. And if not, I would have bought them either. Anyways, maybe not immediately, but since I've already spent like so much on the money on the headphone amp and the USB interface, this wouldn't have killed me. But it is at the moment the best headphone that I've ever heard. The one that I've most enjoyed on the long term. There are great ones, and of course, you could also use these for gaming quite as well, but I'm not quite sure if I'll do that, because if I play games, I want the oomph, and then I have something like, also my Sennheiser GSP 300, but I think this is it. If you have any further questions, leave them down below. And as we've seen, it was a little bit more toned down, a little bit more relaxed, because I think the product just kinda got me back to that, because, great. But as I said, it really comes down to what you want. Let me actually know which one you prefer, if you have one or the other, and why you prefer them, if it's for the same reasons or not. Okay, I would say that's it. You know what to do. Thanks, likes, subscription, and so on. Until next time. Bye.